Well, I'm going to try to make the transition from schools and public schools, K through 12, to the business community. My name is Gloria Higgins, and I'm with the Executives Partnering to Invest in Children, which is a business advocacy organization that tries to enlighten the business community at the highest levels to be aware of the importance of early childhood and engage in any way that makes sense to them. But first, I'm going to start with a graph that was created a couple of years ago from the Institute of Medicine. And they were drawing a connection, almost exactly what we're trying to do now, is to say, why should there be collaboration, and what is the trajectory and the relevance of early childhood to healthy adults? And as I looked at it, there may be some changes that could be made, just updates on terminology. But I think it's exactly what we've been talking about today. And that tells us that the issue hasn't changed, but now we have to begin to broaden the audience of individuals and organizations that are going to help support the changes that need to be, the collaborations that need to be created. And the business community is one of those. So my case is to say that the business community does care, and the business community is very motivated to support early childhood. And I use the term enlightened self-interest so that we can all be clear that there are very generous, philanthropically, community-minded businesses, but there are even more that say, oh my gosh, this is affecting my ability to run my business. It's affecting my ability to attract and retain employees as the new younger workforce is taking stage in the marketplace, the millennials. And they have a different commitment and need from their employers. They need the employers to understand them as a whole individual. So that's an important piece. From the other part, from the business side, is they see and they can articulate and they can identify the costs of turnover, absenteeism, lost productivity, inability to fill the jobs. They understand it, and they're willing in some cases, not all cases, but in some cases, to really make the commitment to help support early childhood in a way that makes sense to them and is authentic to them. The only thing I would say about that is I encourage everyone to ask and engage with the business community and business leaders. They're a little rough around the edges, so they may say things to you that are a little bit intimidating, but don't stop, don't give up, because that's just their way of communicating. Then what also motivates the business sector are some of the tax-advantaged opportunities that are out there. And I look at it in a way differently than a lot of people do, because I'm a tax accountant by training. But I do see tax-advantaged opportunities to get tax credits or to get tax deductions at the business level as a way to share the cost. If I am a business person and spend 100% of the dollars on a particular expense that the government doesn't have to pay, the taxpayer money doesn't have to pay, and I'm getting a tax benefit for it, the population that needs to be served is being served, the services that they get are available, the amount that the public tax dollars have to pay may not be the 100% of the cost, because now business is stepping in. And I'll go through some other examples, but I really want to kind of change our dial and the way we think about tax deductions as it relates to early childhood opportunities and costs. The first one is the cafeteria plan, and I'm sure that a lot of us have heard of the situation where the employer can give you a basket full of funds, and you can use it for your own health care, you can use it for health clubs, or you can use it for your child care. And by doing so, what's happening is that you're getting to pay your child care with pre-tax dollars. So if you're working and you're in the 15% tax bracket, that means that it's going to cost you 15% less than it would have otherwise if you're using your pre-tax dollars. The other thing I want to say is that a fair share, a significant share of the working class individuals could also be defined as working class poor. And we all relate to that when we talk about minimum wage. So when we're talking about diversity of race or ethnicity or income, I think we have to recognize that there is a significant number of our population that is in the workforce, but they're still having a very, very difficult time to make ends meet. So things like cafeteria plans are very, very beneficial in some cases. The other piece is what I call dependent care assistance, and that's a federal law that basically allows the business owner, the employer, to contribute to an employee's child care cost through the cafeteria plan mechanism up to $5,000 per year, and the employee then will receive that benefit income tax free. So if they're, it's a way of supporting your employees. So there are employee benefit packages that are there for the purposes of child care and have been there for a long time. I often complain about the dependent care and the cafeteria plan contribution because it's capped at $5,000. And so I finally took the time to find out when that was put into law, and that $5,000 was put into law January 1, 1982. So I'm advocating very strongly that we just update that amount for inflation. That shouldn't be a hard conversation to have in Washington. So I'm lobbying hard, so anyone can take that to your legislature, please do, because $5,000 doesn't go very far in child care anymore. Then the thing that I'm most proud about is Colorado has a child care contribution tax credit that is 50% of the amount that you donate or contribute to a child care facility. So if I'm an employer, I have many of my workers going to one child care center. And if I want to support that child care center, and in my state it's up to $200,000 I will get a Colorado tax credit for $100,000. So it's real money. It's very, very much real money. I wanted also to talk about the family-friendly workplace policies. So we advocate at the federal level as an organization. We also advocate at the business level. And what we're trying to do is enlighten the employers about ways that they can support the work-life balance, the juggling that their employees have to do by simple things that may not cost them a lot. It may be flex time. It may be job sharing. It may be pulling together whatever you can through vacation and disability insurance and sick time, and then maybe just some generosity by the employer to say, oh, we'll give you 12 weeks of half pay or 12 weeks or full pay for maternity leave or paternity leave. It depends on how generous and how large the company is. I tend to see that the larger the business, the more lucrative the benefits are for the employee. The smaller the business, they just don't have those kind of profit margins to deal with. So we try to engage business in any way that we can to help to allow them to use their voice either at the policy level or at the workplace level where they can really make a difference with their employees one-on-one. Thank you.